Hello and welcome to the Rainy Night Listens podcast. I'm Haley.
And I'm Wyatt, and this is the podcast that you save for a rainy night instead of a rainy day.
Alright, so today we're going to be covering reported relict hominoids of the world.
Okay.
I'm going to preface this by saying that in no way am I an expert on these subjects.
She's lying. She knows a lot.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your confidence, but I think I only have even an inkling of confidence in the final one that we'll be talking about. But for the rest of them, I was learning as I was putting this together. So, if anything is inaccurate or wrong, feel free to make fun of me, but just don't do it to my face or else I'll cry about it.
I'm just saying, they say that if you know a lot about something, you're more likely to say you don't know anything about it and that you don't understand it fully. Whereas it's been said that people who don't know a whole lot are a lot more confident. Just because you care about a subject, you're a lot more unsure about it. Just saying.
Thank you. This is why I keep you around. Alrighty, let's get into it. So there have been sightings reported all over the world of these bipedal creatures. Where it gets very interesting is I think that there's been sightings on almost every continent, and it's always debated on whether they're actual flesh and blood beings. So are they like an animal? Are they a long lost relative of Homo sapiens? Or are they supernatural beings? Like some people think that they're interdimensional beings, or that they're like evil demons or entities that are coming to do bad things. People also think that these are just made up fictional beings that have been used in history to help parents keep their little kids from misbehaving or from staying out too late by being like, oh, if you stay out too late, the boogeyman will get you.
The wild Bigfoot will get you.
Exactly. And so it's kind of interesting. And so overall, keep that in mind that these are all creatures that some people believe that they're real. Some people don't. Some people think it's just a scary fairy tale.
Well, which one do you personally believe? Or which one do you lean most towards?
I feel like for me, it kind of varies from being to being. And the reason for that is some of them seem a little bit more far-fetched in my opinion, where other ones I feel that there's a lot more actual evidence that makes me feel as though there is a better possibility of it being a real flesh and blood creature.
That's fair.
Alright, so we'll kick off by talking about the Almasty of Russia. So, from what I was able to find, they're reported to be around 5 to 6.5 feet tall. They can weigh up to 500 pounds. Their hair color has been reported as being dark brown or kind of like a reddish brown. And for their facial features, they're reported to have a large and protruding forehead, a pretty heavy eyebrow ridge, and then a very wide and flat nose. There really weren't a lot of reports that I could find at all about them being super aggressive. Like most of them were of them being very timid and suspicious acting.
More keeping to themselves kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, as far as where reports of them have come from, you've got the Caucasus Mountains, which is like the mountain range in between that portion of Russia and the country of Georgia. And then you've got the Pamir Mountains, the Tian Shan Mountains, and then the Altai Mountains. And so there's a pretty big geographical distribution of where these reports are coming from.
Yeah, those are really far apart.
Yeah, like it spans a lot of ground. And so it's kind of interesting, but all of or I guess I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of the reports are pretty similar in how they look and how they act.
Okay.
So that is one interesting part of it, but yeah, it covers a lot of ground. So the main evidence that I was able to find for the Almasty are mainly from eyewitness accounts. It's pretty heavy in like folklore, which is kind of where like the boogeyman tales come from and things like that.
Stories and stuff.
And then there have been reportedly some footprints. A quick side note is this lady, her name is Dr. Marie Jean Kaufman. She is the one who's lifting this footprint of a supposed Almasty footprint. But just as like a side note, she seems like one of the coolest, most hardcore people I have ever like looked up.
Yeah, you gave me a short rundown of it before, but she's done a lot with her life, right?
Yeah, like she was a surgeon in Moscow for a while, and then she was like a troop leader of like a military group in World War II for the USSR. And then after that, she was part of like the Pamir expedition, I think of like 1958, where she was the physician that went with this group of people as they were like summiting the Pamir Mountains. And so yeah, she was a super intense person, it seems like. Like I feel like she almost deserves her own
like a whole
thing.
thing about her.
Yeah. But okay, so yeah, besides that, so she spent a lot of time researching the Almasty and went and did a lot of like groundwork as far as interviewing people and gathering witness reports and all sorts of stuff. And so she has contributed pretty greatly to this specific cryptid. So it's been super interesting.
I was going to say, like I said this before when she was telling me about it, it makes me wonder if she saw something while she was like serving or while she was like exploring those mountains. What mountain range or mountains was that again?
The Pamir Mountains.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if she saw something out there that led her down this, or if this was like after the fact kind of thing for her.
Right? Like it's super interesting that someone would just suddenly fall into this type of work, especially if they hadn't had any form of like experiences or interests in it prior to this.
Yeah, like
because it's such a weird field for people to be in, that like one that people get made fun of a lot and kind of like ousted for.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to make fun of this lady.
No, for real. She seems like she could definitely hold her own, I think.
For real.
Alrighty, so this one was super interesting. This was like the oldest account that I was able to find, and it was from the 1400s.
Holy crap, that is
from Hans.
Early.
Yeah, right. From Hans Schildberger, and it was from a journal that he was keeping because he got captured, and was being kept as like a prisoner. And in his journal, it was by the Mongols, that's what it was. And in his journal, he wrote about seeing like these small breeds of horses that they were being used. And he also wrote about 2 wild people who were the Almasty, who were captured from the forest and were gifted to one of the people, like one of the higher up people during that time. And so it was kind of interesting because then along in 1871, Nikolai Przewalski, who actually he claims that he had found and had first discovered I can't pronounce it, but it's like Przewalski's horse, which they think that the horses that Hans was referencing were those horses.
Okay, like you could find the specific like line they were from or something like that.
And so with that, then so he kind of verified like that portion of his story, And then Nikolai actually has written about seeing the wild people from that area as well, which also kind of corresponds with what Hans had written about. And so it's kind of like interesting, like
Yeah.
those parallels. Like I feel like it's important to keep in mind that, especially during that time period, wild people or forest people could also very easily be just more, I don't know if derogatory is the right word, but more of a term that's used for people who they think are like lesser than.
Yeah, like
And
it's
so,
wild people's kind of a broad term. Like it'd be like
yeah.
anywhere from feral to like this, maybe the Almasties to like just even like a disliked group of people could be considered wild people too. Like it could
Yeah.
be literally anything, but it's
Exactly.
so weird that they were so close in like like Hans and Nikolai's accounts are that similar though is a little crazy.
Yeah, like it's super interesting, like the parallels on it. And then in 1963, it's probably pronounced Ivan if it, but Ivan Ivlov was in the Altai Mountains where he had a sighting of an Almasty, and afterwards he went to like a local village and started talking to the people who lived there, and he specifically was talking to like the little kids because he believed that they would be a lot more likely to just be open and honest rather than having like their guards up like most adults
Yeah.
would. And the little kids talked about seeing and interacting with the wild people and the
Okay.
Almasty and stuff like that. So kind of interesting.
It's really cool.
So this is a report that was around for quite a while. I don't know if there's anyone who still believes that she was an Almasty, but way back, I think it was in the 1800s, there was a lady named Zana, and the story of her is a pretty sad one, and so I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but I'll still kind of give you like an overview of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the story goes that there was a wild woman living in the mountains. In the Caucasus Mountains, that's what it was. In the Caucasus Mountains, and they said that she was naked and completely covered in hair. She didn't speak a language, like she was just very aggressive, and so they ended up capturing her, and I can't remember if she was gifted or sold to someone who was in Abkhazia. Well, they ended up keeping her locked up in a cage because she was so aggressive, and so they talked about how she like dug a pit in the ground that she would sleep in. People would like throw food into her because they were all scared of her.
Yeah, getting in the cage with her.
Yes,
okay.
And after a while, they said that she had finally been tamed enough that she was allowed to walk around the town, and like they were able to get her to dress up in clothing, and men would take advantage of her, and so she ended up having like 6 kids, and so people believed that she was an Almasty who was captured and was
put through all of this.
Yes. Well, fast forward some time, it turns out she most likely was not, and that she was probably a lady that was either sold, like almost like slavery kind of stuff, and may have had like some genetic disorder or something that caused like excessive body hair growth or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like they've found where like the graveyard where her family has been buried, like her descendants. And they never have actually found her skull or anything like that, but they found like the people who were allegedly her children, and they tested their
DNA.
bones and everything, and they said that they're human. Like there's not really anything to go off of there, but
no deviations from the normal whatever that's called, DNA.
And so it's kind of interesting because I feel like it kind of plays back into, at that time, people were very close-minded and weren't as caring about others or other people's cultures or other people's genetic disorders, anything like that. And so this is just one that I noticed I was finding like a lot of, but I don't know if people still actually think it's real, but I wanted to talk about it because I feel that it's important to make sure that it's known that
it's directly tied to the Almasty.
Yes.
So it's a good point to get it across.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. Next one is going to be the Yeren of China.
Oh, man.
I was laughing whenever I was finding the pictures.
Yeah.
Because there's like this one little cutesy guy, and then this other just jacked, scary guy.
He's a fit dude. That's the difference between the two photos is crazy.
Right. Range in height from 6 feet to 8 feet tall.
Holy crap.
Weighs somewhere between 700 to 1,000 pounds. Hair color could be red or tawny, and everything was saying that like their hair is very thick.
Okay.
Like super thick. The report is having more of a sunken face with protruding lips and an upturned nose, but their temperament is very peaceful.
Okay. So already kind of a difference between these and the Almasties was the other ones were kind of shy, but these ones were just considered peaceful, like not scared, but also not aggressive either. Okay.
So these have mainly been reported in the Hubei province of China, which is just like it's pretty densely forested, and so that's where most of the reports come from.
Okay.
Evidence again is eyewitness accounts, footprints, and hair samples. These footprints are purported to be Yeren footprints, and so you can see each of the toes.
Yeah.
You can see like the heel of the foot. You can see, I guess I don't know how far into any of this stuff you've gotten, but where there would be like a mid-tarsal break, which is where it kind of like dips in on its foot in between the top part of its foot and where its heel is.
Kind of like the arch?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, kind of interesting.
Yeah, you can kind of see it in that right one a little bit more, can't you?
Yeah. Alrighty. So, the main encounter that I was able to find was from 1976. And so this comes from a book called The Field Guide to Bigfoot, Yeti, and Other Mystery Primates Worldwide. So that's where I was able to find this encounter. But based on this, they were driving around in a Jeep at 1 o'clock in the morning, and as they were driving, a large ape-like creature was standing in the road in front of them, and so they flashed their high beams on to get a better look at what it was, and they said that it tried to get up the embankment that was on the side of the road, and it ended up slipping and coming back down. And so they had to like slam on their brakes to keep from hitting it. And for whatever reason, they got out of their vehicle and were like staring at right. I would not, like, I would be locking the door.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that would help, but I would be.
Open if it's a Jeep with a roof on it and not a open top.
Right.
I'd be freaking out, putting it in reverse.
And so they get out of the Jeep and they're like staring at it. And one of them picks up a rock and kind of throws it at it.
Of course they did.
And then it stands up on 2 feet and then ends up just kind of like
wandering
away. And
That's-
so, kind of a funny story, like just weird. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Like, why would you get out of the Jeep? Why would you throw a rock at it? Like, what are you trying
Yeah.
to do?
You ought to be glad it was nice enough to just wander off rather than get mad after you threw a
Yeah.
rock at it.
Maybe that's where that peaceful
Yeah,
temperament comes from. Is
that's true.
even when provoked, it just kind of
It's like, I could
rolls
beat you
its
up,
eyes
but I
and
won't
wander.
do it. And then
Yeah.
leaves.
so
That's
Yeah.
fair.
kind of weird.
A strangely aggressive, peaceful encounter.
Yeah. Alrighty, then we've got the orang pendek of Indonesia. So they range in height from 3 feet to 5 feet tall. I couldn't really find any information as far as weight goes. As far as hair color, they've been reported to have dark orange hair, brown, black, or even gray. They've been reported as having very humanoid faces and having like very humanoid noses with more wide set eyes and a smaller mouth, and that they're very shy.
Okay.
And so a few of the stories that I read, like, people whenever they see these ones have a very visceral, I guess, I don't know if visceral is the right word, but a very strong reaction to it because of how human-like it looks.
Yeah, I bet that'd be like really off-putting.
Yeah, like
seeing
you're like-
something that looks human but not quite, like slightly off.
It's like that uncanny valley, like, weird just
Yeah,
feeling
that
you don't,
wrong
can't
feeling.
Really, yeah.
yeah, that's fair. I'd be really freaked out if I saw one of these too.
I feel like I'd be freaked out if I saw any of these.
Yeah,
Like, it'd be so
especially
cool.
the 8-foot tall ripped guy.
Yeah, that jacked guy. I'd be like, oh no, don't take me. No.
Oh, gosh dang it.
Alright, so these are found in the Kerinci Seblat National Park in Sumatra. And so it's just like super dense forest, and a lot of the reports come from the smaller like villages and towns and stuff that surround the forest or the national park, because there aren't a lot of people, from what I was seeing, that actually live inside of the park. And so a lot of the reports come from people
Around the area.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
We've got a link to the evidence right here.
yes. So this is super interesting because this is on Cliff Barrickman's website, and Cliff Barrickman does a lot of work as far as like studying Sasquatch in North America, and especially in like the Pacific Northwest. Like, he owns the North American Bigfoot Museum. Like, he does a lot with
He's
it. And
got
so whenever I saw
lot.
that he had on his website the Orang Pendek project, I thought it was super interesting
Yeah,
because
it's really cool that he separated them and didn't just lump it in with Bigfoot, because I feel like a lot of people will be like, well, it's just Bigfoot.
yeah.
You know, rather than giving it its locational like name and what's the phrase, profile, like its locational profile.
Yeah.
It's not the same everywhere. It's different.
Well, and I feel like it's super interesting too, because I feel like I agree with you that people do think that all of these are just the same thing, just like spread out. But when you actually like look into it, like, they're all very different. Like, even though they're all bipedal, like humanoid looking creatures, like, they're very different. Like, each of them are their own
Yeah, like as
group, and so
we saw from like the 3 that we've covered so far, it literally ranges from 3 to 5 feet, like 6 to. It was like 5 to like 6.5 feet, and then the one previously was like 6 to 8. So it's like they vary in size, and their temperaments were all peaceful to timid, but like it's still strange seeing like they are different, like the sizes and colors. Even there was differences in the fur colors too.
yeah.
That's really cool.
It's super interesting. And so I'll show you, because if anyone wants to look at it, I don't I don't want to take away from people going and exploring his website and everything. And so I've got the link on here so that if anyone wants to go and look, they're more than welcome to, and they can explore it themselves. But that's why I'm not pulling it up on here, is because I don't want to take away from people going and...
He put in the work.
Yes.
Might as well see it on his website
exactly.
rather than here.
And so I'll still show you, but so on his website he's got like some stories, he's got footprint evidence, and just kind of like just a lot of information. And so it is super interesting. And so like on his website you can see these photos, and so like that's a picture of a footprint that they think is from an O-ring pendek. And so here you can see the heel. There you can see like like a big toe would be. It kind of juts out to the side. And then you've got the other 4 toes up here. And then that's after it was cast. Yeah. And so you can see that its big toe is farther down.
Yeah.
Which would be similar to like a chimp or like something like that, where it's more used for like grabbing. And so it's kind of cool. Like it's kind of crazy. And so then if you think about like the Yaren footprint,
this is vastly different from that.
Yeah.
Where like and length.
It's more similar to how a person's foot looks, because your big toe is in line with the rest of your toes. But then this one,
it's more closer to, like you said, you said chimps.
Yeah.
Where it's like they could grab sideways and then that's cool.
Yeah, like it's kind of cool. Like it really is, because like my thing is like, even if people don't think it's real, like it is fascinating to like look into, because like if it's not, then what is that from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's fun to look into it and really try to think about it and think like what could be causing that then.
Yeah, that's the one thing, is it's like people be so quick to say no to these things, but like just the sense of wondering what that could possibly be or what's out there, it's just vast. I think it's a much better mindset to have. Curiosity is what has led to the invention of many things and stuff. Like, I'd rather be a curious person than a person like, no, that's just fake. Clearly you just did this and this with it. Like, it's why say no to something when you can actually try to understand it?
Exactly.
Or at least get an idea.
Yeah. So, as far as reported encounters go,
we've got a recent one up there. 2011.
Yeah. That one is actually super interesting too, which let me see here. All right. So this first one, again, comes from that same book that I had mentioned earlier. But Van Herwarden had an eyewitness account. So he was a Dutch settler, an explorer, and a timber prospector. And so while he was hunting pigs, he was kind of just like sitting up waiting for any pigs to come through. And he saw something in one of the trees a little ways away from him. And so he went over there and kind of was like looking around the tree and started to climb it a little bit. And then all of a sudden, what he described as the O-ring pendek dropped down out of the tree. And he said it was about 5 feet tall, and that he could tell it was a female, but that it's kind of funny how he explained it, but he said there was nothing repulsive or ugly about its face, nor was it at all ape-like.
Oh.
So, very weird, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a strange way to put it.
Yeah. But he said that it had, like, dark, thick hair, and that it had, like, shaggy hair that kind of went down to its shoulders.
Okay.
And it just kind of ended up running off away from him, and so he just
left it be.
Yeah, kind of just left it alone. But yeah, so
that's
kind of
crazy.
A weird one, like a very close eyewitness report where I don't really know how you would confuse something if it was that close to you, but also who really knows, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Like a lot of times, people think like, oh, how come it's like trying to pick it apart, but when when you come face to face with something you don't initially comprehend or understand right off the bat, your brain isn't trying to nitpick every single detail in front of you. Your brain isn't, fight or flight or trying to understand, but it's not going to be working at full capacity like it is any other time of day. Like, like it goes like with everything. Like, let's say you come around a corner and something scares you. You're not let's say there's a face there or something. You're not immediately going to remember what the face looks like. You just remember being scared out of your mind, like in the minute. So it's like,
yeah,
it's understandable that people don't have like one-to-one recreations of what they saw in these moments. Like
and it's almost more suspicious if they do.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's something that, like, whenever you are shocked like that, like if it's something that you weren't expecting to see, there is a disconnect in your brain where you're trying to figure out what you're looking at, but the moments happen so fast.
It's more like a frantic surge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, where there's, like, you only have what your first instinct was, or what your first visual was, and then if that's the end of the moment, then your brain is going to try to autofill what happened next.
Yeah, because a quick glance isn't a perfect picture, and memories are more likely to fill in the gaps than leave them blank.
Yeah, and so whenever people are like, I saw this thing and it was only a split second, but then they can tell you every single detail that happened, it's kind of like,
it's like, I feel like you're kind
is that true? Or like, how much of this is true? Like, it's very interesting. Now this one's kind of an interesting story. So in 2011, this also is on Cliff Barackman's website as well as where I got this story from.
Okay.
And so there was a team of researchers who were searching for the orang pendek. And so they said that it was a group of 4 of them, and 2 of them split off one way, 2 of them split off another way, and 2 of them saw what they believe is one of these orang pendeks. They said it had turned and was squishing its face and its body up against a tree, like it was trying to hide from them. And they said that they could see it, like, breathing out of the side of its mouth as it was, like
trying to hide, like, its
yeah,
breath.
and they said that they could see its eyes kind of, like, moving around, like it was, like, super scared and, like, looking around before it, like, darted away and darted, like, into, like, the underbrush and disappeared into the forest.
That's crazy.
And they said that one of the guys who was there found the whole experience so moving that he burst into tears.
Oh my god.
Because he was, like, so overwhelmed with, like, what they had just seen.
Seeing concrete evidence rather than thoughts.
Yeah.
Hopes. That's fair. That's crazy.
Right? Like, it's so interesting. And so, yeah, like, it kind of feeds into, like, how shy and timid it says that people say that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if they were that close to it, that thing very easily could have turned and just attacked them.
Yeah, especially if it felt threatened. But I guess in this case, they're more likely to run than try to fight. It makes sense given their smaller size compared to the other ones we've seen. Like, makes sense that they're more likely to try to dip out before anything can happen.
That's true.
That's crazy, though.
Alright, so now we've got the Otang of South Africa. As you can see.
That's a really good picture of
Thank you. I thought it was pretty good. Like, it really shows a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Really, like, I feel like this is almost as good a photographic evidence as one can get.
As it could possibly even be. Like, oh man. If you don't believe in this one after that, I don't know what would make you believe.
Right? So this one, there really isn't a lot of information, and everything I was looking at, there's really only one main. I guess I don't want to mislead and say that there haven't been reports of it, because there have been. But the most famous and well known one is from Gareth Patterson, um, in his books. So he has two books. One's called The Secret Elephants, and then the other one's called Beyond the Secret Elephants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the most well known example of.
Of the otang?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the height, 5.5 feet to 7 feet. I couldn't find anything on the weight. The hair color is russet to black. I couldn't find any descriptions on facial features, but their temperament is curious and elusive.
Okay. So not as likely to run away a little bit. Huh. Like, that's almost scarier. more, what's that word?
It's a lot scarier to have something shadowing you than it is to
Yeah,
have something
like it's
just
following
turn
you,
and run
trying
away.
to figure out what you are versus trying to book it out of sight as soon as it sees you.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, as far as distribution goes, in the Tsitsikamma forest and the mountain Fynbos in South Africa.
Okay.
So as far as evidence goes, there are the eyewitness reports, and then from what I was finding, footprints have been seen, but I couldn't find any casts, I couldn't find any photos, and so there might be photos, there might be casts, I just couldn't find them whenever I was looking for it.
That's fair.
So, again, the main reported encounter that I know about was Gareth Patterson, and so in his book he talks about, which unfortunately I misplaced my copy of Beyond the Secret Elephants, and so I was gonna use it to reference on this, and so I'm still technically referencing Beyond the Secret Elephants, I just don't know where my physical copy is at.
You're not
and
reading
so,
directly out of the book.
Yeah, so I'm just telling this from memory of reading the book, but the real detailed account is in his book, and it's super interesting. But one of them was so what he was doing is he was looking for the Nisna elephants, which were believed to have been extinct in like that part of South Africa, and he thought that there was a chance that there still might be some, and so he spent like countless hours, countless days out in the forest just walking, like on foot, exploring, finding these elephants. And he did end up finding some of those elephants and realized that, yeah, like that they weren't completely extinct. Like he started by like finding elephant scat, and then he found some of their prints, and then he eventually was able to actually see them, and they were in a spot that they weren't supposed to be in, like not one where you would think that they would be.
Yeah, like outside of their normal,
like what
locations.
People thought. Yeah, like what people thought their normal range was. And so, super cool story in and of itself, but then adding this on top of it, he had been asked by some of the park rangers if he had seen any bipedal hairy creatures, and he's kind of like, what the heck? And so he started like asking around, and there were park rangers, there were people who had visited the park, like the national park, who had reported sightings of these things. Like there was a couple who had seen some, I can't remember if they had like walked across the road in front of them, but other people thought that, oh, those people just don't know what they're talking about, like they were baboons or whatever. Yeah. But these people were very adamant that no, like these things were on two legs and did not look like baboons and were just walked across the road in front of us. And so like he had been collecting, even if it wasn't like purposefully, he had been like hearing and collecting accounts of these things. And so one of his was he was walking through the woods and he saw one like peek out from behind a tree, and from what I remember from reading on in his book, is he kept walking, and he talked about that the reason why was because because he used to do like a lot of work with like lions as well, and like protecting and like preservation and all that stuff. And he said that if you make eye contact with some predatory animals, it'll trigger their predatory response.
Yeah, they'll almost attack or lunge at you once you make eye contact with them.
Yeah, and so he kept walking and just didn't make eye contact with it. And he said that he could kind of like see it still like
watching him as he.
Yeah. And
like I said, it's even scarier than it trying to get
like,
away.
So much worse. And then the other one that I can remember is that, so he does like these forest experiences where he'll take people on tours and stuff like that to kind of show them around that area and kind of show them like the elephants and things like that, or at least like the evidence of the elephants being there, because you can't be guaranteed to see them. But and he had taken them, and they were set up a ways away from a watering hole, and all of the people were kind of like excitedly like talking and stuff, and like looking through their binoculars, and all of a sudden this being on two legs that was covered in hair walked out of like the tree line and walked up to the watering hole and was drinking.
Oh man.
And the people with them were like, what is that? And he asked them if they had like read his book, and they said yes, and he said that that's what he had seen.
Oh my gosh.
Like whenever it was kind of like
peeking around the
looking
corner.
at him. And so after it got done, it got up and just walked back into the tree line and just disappeared.
That's crazy.
And so this one is super interesting to me.
Because there's like little information, but at the same time, almost a lot more confident of encounters with it than.
Yeah, and like, what does this guy have to gain from
making that up? He already found the elephants. Like, he set out to do what he wanted to do.
Like, he spent his whole life like saving lions, and now elephants. Like, what does he have to gain from making those stories up? Like,
yeah.
And so it's just super interesting because there's really not a lot of information that I could find, but those stories are crazy.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh, it's time.
It is time for Hagen's historical word of the day.
Let's hear it.
John.
All right, that's our historical word for the day.
Thank you, Hagen.
Thank you, Hagen.
All right. So next.
That's a terrifying picture.
What, you don't like that little cutie guy?
No.
Look how happy it is to see you, though.
Yeah. See, that's how I expect. You even read the temperament. That's why this is why I personally might not go looking for these things by myself. I feel like I'm going to get ripped in half if I, tried any of this.
Ah, come on. These are just little guys.
Just little guys. Oh, under 5 foot?
Yeah.
It's even worse. I wouldn't get ripped in half. I'd get
mauled.
Beat up by something smaller than me, which hurts even more.
Alright, so the Ibu Gogo of Flores Island. So they're around 5 feet tall. I couldn't find anything as far as weight. The hair color, they're just a lot of darker colors. Facial features, they have wide, flat noses, very broad faces with large mouths. And from what I was seeing, they're pretty aggressive.
That's terrifying.
So these, again, found on Flores Island. So the main evidence is eyewitness reports, a lot of folklore, and a possible Homo floresiensis connection.
That's a mouthful of words.
Right.
Two words.
Do you know about Homo floresiensis?
No, I do not.
Okay. So Homo floresiensis is a pretty much like I guess I'm trying to think of what the right word would be. Okay, so they're like an extinct species that was discovered in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And it, they nicknamed it like the Hobbit, which isn't like super cool, but that's what it's been nicknamed
It gets
as
the point across.
because it's so short. And so they think that it was around like 3 to 3.5 feet tall.
Oh.
And this was all also on Flores Island. And
Oh,
so it's
so-
very interesting because the folklore and stories that have been passed down from like the native peoples that live on the island is that there have been reports of Ibu Gogo for a really long time, and all like their reports and the way that they explained what the Ibu Gogo looks like is very similar to what they think Homo floresiensis looked like.
But just taller, basically. I guess it says under 5 feet, so technically slightly taller than. That's crazy.
But so there's like two sides to it, right? Like there's the one side that says no, that they're completely different things, that there wouldn't have even been people on Flores Island whenever whenever Homo floresiensis went extinct. But then there's the other side that is like, okay, but is it not super interesting that Ibu Gogo is almost identical to how Homo floresiensis is also being described?
Yeah.
And so there's a pretty big like rift there, but it is super interesting that there's been these stories being passed down about these creatures who were living alongside the people at the time who were on the island well before Homo floresiensis was ever discovered as being an extinct humanoid species.
It's almost too, like, man, I am not on it with words today. It is too close to be a coincidence. I feel like it just. Coincidences are a possibility, but like, come on, it's like that's a little too much of an obvious one.
Yeah, like it's weird to think that people won't even like entertain the idea of of those possibly living a lot longer than what they were expected to have lived, because especially if you have the stories of the people who were there, I don't know, it's very interesting to think about.
It is. It's really cool.
Now the weirdest part is that I could not find any specific examples of Ibu Gogo encounters, and so I don't know if there just haven't been any recent enough encounters that they've been able to be recorded, or if they're all from like folkloric tales.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty interesting, but
I feel like it's a very limited area too. Like it's a singular island, so you're not gonna really get any information of them off the island. I mean anywhere else, unless it's someone who's either lived on the island and experienced it, or people who have gone like an account directly from someone on the island, left the island, and then made a point to share that information. So it makes sense that you probably wouldn't find very much talk of it anywhere because it's very isolated. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's fair. Well, and especially because like whenever I was looking this up, so Homo floresiensis was found in like, if I'm remembering correctly, was found more in like the western part of the island, where Ibu Gogo reports are more from like the central part of the island. I might have that flipped, but it's one or the other, where like they're more set in like their areas. And so part of why they think that it's two different things as well is because they think that with how small they are, that their range wouldn't have been big enough for them to have been able to travel that far.
Yeah, but it's possible
But
they
it's
might
kind
have
of,
just like migrated, and
yeah,
that's why they
like,
thought they were gone. But in reality, they had just moved more to the center, or out to the edge, depending on which one it was.
yeah. And so it's kind of, I think I just need to look more into it because I don't really understand why they think that that would have.
Constitute a different species altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. Still really interesting though.
Mm,
Everybody
alright.
knows this one.
What? You know the Yeti?
Everybody knows the Yeti. Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of the abominable snowman.
It's another name for it.
Uh,
So Yeti of Nepal, height of anywhere between 6 feet to 9 feet tall. Couldn't find any information as far as weight goes. Hair color can range from brown to gray or white. They're reported as having broad foreheads with short and wide noses and very pronounced brow ridges. And they're reported as being very aggressive.
wonder if it's just me thinking out loud, but it's like I feel like they're known to be in very snowy and cold areas. I wonder if they're aggressive because food is in such short supply for them.
That would make
Because you've
sense.
always heard of Yetis being aggressive. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a story with a Yeti involved where the Yeti wasn't trying to hurt somebody or
That's
something.
fair.
But it makes me wonder if it's because food is hard to come by where they always end up living at, so they have to be naturally aggressive, otherwise they're just going to fall right out of the food chain.
I've never thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense because when resources are so sparse, like, you have to fight really hard to make sure that you survive.
Yeah.
And so that makes complete sense. All right, so geographical distribution is mainly in the Himalayan mountains, which the Himalayan mountains, like, you can see on the map, like, it spans that whole area, like, outside of my circle. I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to make my
make a curved circle.
yeah. I couldn't figure out how to make it
a smile.
so shape. Either I had it that little, or else it would have been a giant circle
Humongous.
that, like, completely encapsulated that entire area.
That's
but yeah,
fair.
so it's mainly in the Himalayan mountain range. Okay, so evidence, eyewitness accounts, footprints, a supposed Yeti scalp, and hair.
I was going to say, is that picture on the top, this is the Yeti scalp?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is kept in a monastery, and they think it's a Yeti scalp. And so
They've not been allowed to take it out for testing or take samples from it?
not crazy recently. On the next slide, I've got some of, like, the dates and stuff, but yeah. So here on the footprints.
Yeah, that footprint is huge, by the way.
Which,
next to a pickaxe head.
yeah.
Like, that's giant.
I will say, one thing that I've learned, I think it's called, like, sublimation, where whenever there is, like, a footprint in snow or in, like, icy conditions, is sublimation, so it causes, as it, like, melts,
It gets bigger than it originally
makes
was.
it look a lot more exaggerated in, like, size and everything.
I was going to say, because those toes are giant, but
yeah, like,
that
the toes
makes
are, like, the
sense.
size of your hand.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense that the excess heat from the footprint would melt more area out.
Yeah, and so from what I was reading, they think that that photo sublimation has occurred, and so it's way bigger than what it actually should be.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But then on the other picture, you can see,
next
like,
to a shoe.
Yeah, and then below that with the guy, you can see, like, the track wave of what is supposedly
a Yeti trail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there have been a few reported encounters. In 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reported footprints, and so those were the people who were climbing Mount Everest, and so they reported seeing
a Yeti,
like footprints
okay,
that looked like they came from a Yeti while they were summiting, but later they came back and said that they were skeptical of the Yeti's existence. And so I don't know if like maybe they like looked into it more, like the footprints they saw, and they figured out it was something else, or what the whole story is there. But they did end up coming back later and saying that they were skeptical of it even being a thing.
That's a little weird to report it and then be like, I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, well, like
further down the road, like maybe someone convinced them otherwise. I'd like to imagine it's what you said, where they did their own research and figured, hey, this doesn't look like what we thought we saw, kind of thing. I think that because, like, I hope that's what happened.
Yeah, because I feel like I have a lot more respect for people who can come back and say, oh, like, I was wrong about this thing, or oh, like, maybe this thing, like, I learned differently, or oh, I was wrong about this thing, it actually was real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
it's a lot harder for a person to
admit
that they were wrong than it is for them to double down and refuse to be wrong in their own mind.
Yeah. And so I do find that interesting, but it makes me believe it a little bit more that they did see something that they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But maybe they learned what it was. I don't know, but kind of interesting.
It is.
So then in 1954, there was a hair analysis done of the supposed Yeti scalp.
Okay.
And so whenever it was analyzed, they tested it against like bears, orangutans, like different things like that. And they weren't able to figure out what the hairs were from. Like they said, it wasn't from a bear, it wasn't from an orangutan, it wasn't from anything like that. But that they do think it came from some form of like ungulated animal or like hoofed animal.
Oh, hoofed animal. Okay, I was gonna say, forgive me for not being that smart, but I don't know what ungulated means.
No, sorry, I'm being douchey with my words. I apologize.
No, you're good. It's better to know what you're talking about than to have to simplify it.
But they also said that they don't, like, from that hair analysis, they don't think it was that the hairs, or that the Yeti scalp, quote unquote, came from a head hair. It came from, like, some form of, like, body hair. Because it's a lot, they said it was, like, a lot more coarse than what head hair would have been like.
Okay. Strange. That still leaves a lot to be wondered.
Yes.
Like, that still doesn't answer
like,
the question.
Okay, so what was it then?
Yeah.
So
Thank you for telling me what it wasn't, but what was it now?
Yeah. So then, again in 1957, it was tested again, and they tested it. Let me see. Sorry, it listed. Oh yeah, they tested it against Himalayan blue bears, black bears, and seros, which a sero is like a hoofed animal. Which, let me show you a picture of it. I don't know how to describe it very well, but that's what it looks like.
Okay, so that's a hard one to describe.
Yeah, because I almost want to say like deer-like, but it's not. It doesn't look like a deer at all.
It's like if you mixed a deer and a goat or something.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a,
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
And so they said that it didn't come back as any of those, and again, it came back like they think that it's from some closely related species to the sero, but that it's not one of those. So they still don't know what it's from. They just know what it's not, and it's not any of the bears.
Once again, thanks for telling me what it wasn't, but what was it?
Like, it's almost weirder that they don't know what it is.
Yeah. It still means that there's something they don't know what it is out there.
Yeah. And then, in 2007, Josh Gates did an expedition searching for the Yeti. And him and his team...
I was going to say that that dude in the picture looks familiar, but it makes sense.
That's good old Josh Gates.
That's Josh Gates.
But he's holding a cast of one of the footprints that they lifted from their expedition in the Himalayas.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, what it is, I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
It is pretty insane because I feel like it's pretty crazy that recently a footprint like that has been found in the Himalayas, and we still don't know what exactly it came from. They also said that they had found like some hairs, and the hair samples obtained an unknown DNA sequence, and so they don't know what the hairs came from either.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's like a TV thing where they're like, we don't know, or if that's actually
a
the case.
Genuine response.
But all of it together, it makes for a very, very interesting case, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, look at that guy.
I have a sneaking suspicion
Yeah.
that the Beast Titan was based off of this Yowie photo.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna look at that and tell me that that's not what the Beast Titan was based off of?
That's just him.
Good one.
That's just Zeke. I don't know what to tell you.
It's gotta be
him.
Zeke.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and then there's like other photos of the Yowie where on that little kid show Halloween Spooktacular, the freaking Yowie drawings look like the vampire people.
You were telling me about
It's
this
so
just beforehand.
funny, but yeah, so sorry. Back on track now. So the Yowie of Australia is reported to be between 6 to 10 feet tall.
10 feet is crazy.
That's so big.
It makes it hard. It makes it hard to believe that there haven't been more sightings of something like this. It is. I feel like it'd be incredibly hard to hide while being 10 feet tall. But I know that the world is in a lot bigger place than people think it is. But like, it's just crazy to think about something that big existing.
Up to 1,000 pounds, reddish brown hair or black hair. The facial features are very ape-like, and they are reported as being aggressive.
I do not want.
You don't want to run into a 1,000.
He's gonna crush him.
Just like the
throw,
beast.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna get that big old wind-up going with those long, lanky arms. Are you kidding me?
I was gonna say, it says he's up to 1,000 pounds, much like the
Beast Titan?
No, they said the Titans are actually very light, but what is it called? The one we covered earlier, the one that's like 8 feet tall that I keep referring back to, the muscular one.
Yeren.
They said it was also up to 1,000 pounds, and I thought in my head, I was like, how the heck can this be comparable to the other one? Because this one's up to 3 feet taller, but I'm like, this guy's a lot lankier than the beefcake of the Yeren.
And the beefcake.
He was. Makes sense. Look how lanky he is.
Alright. Geographical distribution.
Of course it's in Australia.
Right. The Australian outback is what I was able to find, which the outback covers the bulk of Australia, from what I was finding.
Pretty much the not green part of Australia, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah. So the evidence, eyewitness reports, thermal footage.
The thermal pictures.
You like that? Folklore and footprints.
Oh, man.
So that thermal footage, it's from the Australian Yowie hunters. They've got a website that they've got all of, or I guess I don't know if it's all of it, but a lot of information from expeditions that they've done and evidence that they've collected, like all sorts of stuff. And so I think that they've actually got the video of the thermal as well.
The video, like that picture's from?
Yeah, and so this is like overlaid showing the size of the people compared to the being that they caught on their thermal.
I think it'd be
so I don't think that they were actually all just standing like that together, but they've like overlaid it with them comparatively.
That makes more sense.
And so that line is if they were 6 feet tall, that's what the other thing is
I was gonna
is
say
compared.
the 6 foot line's right at the top of 3 of their heads. I like to imagine that line's actually 5'10", but they're being dudes and rounding up to 6 feet for the picture. That's crazy though. Just splicing the two sides together. That's insane. How
But yeah,
it's so much taller
it's
than they are.
horrifying. And like, look at how long its legs are compared to its body too.
Yeah.
Like, and then the arms are super lanky, but like it looks so broad. Like, look at its shoulder width
You could
compared to
fit
the
2
other
of those
guys.
full-grown men across his chest,
Yeah.
basically. That's insane.
It is kind of funny though, like the head size in comparison to the shoulders though.
Yeah.
Like that bro's got a tiny head.
Yeah, he really does.
But yeah, so kind of crazy. So then the upper picture, you can see a footprint. They've got the tape measure. You can't read it very well, but I think it was like 13 or 14 inches.
Okay. I was trying to like guesstimate. Yeah, it looks like it's like what, bordering on 13 inches.
And then on the right side, I don't know if you can see it very well, but
Those like
you can see like the raised.
indentations.
Yeah, it's like a big creature.
What's
Let me run
what
up
like
to the
carved
TV and
that
show
into
you.
the rock or whatever that is?
It's like a leg, and you can see.
Yeah, all the way up.
Yeah, and then his arms come up, and then his head is like that little triangle-looking thing right there, and then his other arm comes out, and then goes back down to his legs.
What like put that indentation into the
So that was,
just someone's like representation of it, or
yeah, it came up under like ancient like petroglyphs
oh
of like
well,
a yowie. And so like there's like cave paintings, carvings, there's all sorts of stuff that they believe was referencing the yowie, and so that's kind of where like the folkloric part comes into play, is that they believe that that's what
like
that is.
Gotcha. Like almost one of the earliest references to it.
Yeah, like one of like the earlier ones.
Gotcha.
Okay. In 1996, there was a couple that was driving that reported seeing a yowie cross the road, and it scared them pretty bad.
Yeah, I bet.
I feel like seeing any giant being would just be...
I wanted to make a joke. I was waiting for you to read that the exact same way it's typed out. But then you, like, said, like, a couple while driving saw a yowie cross the street. But, like, up there it says, a couple sees a yowie while driving. It's like...
The yowie was driving?
It's like, leave the poor guy alone. He's just trying to get to his job or something. Like,
Bro's going to work, and you guys won't leave him alone about
call
it.
him the poor dude a yowie. I don't know what he did.
The guy's just sobbing in his car.
That's pretty funny.
In 2000, the Piper film is recorded,
I was
which
gonna say, what's the Piper
I'm
film?
gonna pull that up for you real quick, because it's pretty interesting and it's pretty quick. But then, so then the third one in 2014 is the yowie thermal footage, as well as footprints and samples. That's the thermal still that we saw.
That we saw in the first slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then here is the Piper footage.
Okay. And even there you can tell he's huge compared to...
What's interesting, though, is that it looks like it's injured. Like, you can see it's, like, dragging its one
It's
leg.
almost limping. Yeah, like it's more hunched forward, like it's limping along.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And so that one, I feel like it's not very often that they find them injured, or like reports of
Yeah.
injured ones come up. And so that one's pretty interesting in that way. But that one's a pretty well-known film of a supposed yowie.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a good one.
But you could even see, like, in the video, like, how long its legs looked, too.
Yeah.
Like, they looked pretty thin for something being that big.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Oh, man. There he is.
I would say the man, the myth, the legend, but the lady, the myth, the legend.
The lady, the myth, the legend.
Patty.
Patty.
Alright. Sasquatch of North America have reported to have a height of 6 to 9 feet tall, weighing between 400 to 700 pounds. They're reported of having a dark brown or black hair color. As far as facial features go, they've got a pretty low brow ridge, a receding forehead, and a flat nose. And their temperament is mainly reported as being shy and elusive. Geographical distribution. Oh. Apparently that's the Australian outback.
Yeah, you can see Washington and Oregon. That's actually the Australian outback.
You know, doesn't it look like it?
Border of
Who
Vancouver.
could forget about Vancouver and the Australian outback? Jeez, apparently I'm a dodo brain.
That's
So
alright.
the Pacific
Don't even trip
Northwest is what that was supposed to say. And so sightings span a lot of the U.S. and up into Canada, but the bulk of them are focused within this area, so within the Pacific Northwest.
Gotcha. Specifically in the forested area, obviously, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
you'll notice in every single one where their location is circled, it's always in the heavily forested areas, which
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But
It also spans pretty heavily down into Northern California as well.
oh, okay.
So evidence, eyewitness reports, footprints, vocalizations, video footage, thermal footage, body impressions, cave paintings.
Man.
And so there's been quite a bit of stuff associated with Sasquatch. So in like the top left photo, you can see like a partial footprint on the far left. You can see the second one. I can't remember what the name of that footprint is, but it looks like one that either like broke its foot.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because Jeff Meldrum, on some of his casts, he'll like carve out what the bone structure looks like on them. And so on that one, he kind of like carved out what the bone structure would be, and it's pretty mangled, like it's pretty crazy, but
and for people who don't know, Jeff Meldrum's like the more in the U.S. Leading professional on Sasquatch, and not even just Sasquatch, but like all sorts of apes, right? Like,
yeah, so he's a professor at Idaho State University. He teaches a bunch of like anthropology courses and specifically studied like the evolution of bipedal locomotion. It's like how we evolved to walk on 2 feet. And so he knows a lot about that subject, and he's been able to take it and apply it to this subject,
this field of research,
and has made him like the #1 person that people go to whenever they find footprints and things like that because of his expertise in that field.
Gotcha.
So the bottom left, below
one,
like the partial
smallest
footprint,
cast.
that's a knuckle and thumb impression
Okay.
that someone got. And so you can see each of like the 4 knuckles, like
Yeah.
boom, 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 and then on that part that kind of hangs down, it's like the thumb, and you can actually in the cast see the side of the thumbnail on
I was
it.
gonna say it almost seems like you'd be able to see the nail itself.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
like you can actually see like the side of the thumbnail, so like it like
Yeah,
it's
where it
kind of
pressed.
crazy. The one
That's
on the
so cool.
right produced something called the Skookum cast, and it's because like the area that they were in was called like Skookum something. But they've got an imprint of where where it looks like a Sasquatch actually laid down and was reaching for some food that was in the middle of kind of like a muddy wallow area. And it looked like they've got the thigh, they've got like the calf, they've got the heel, they've got like a forearm impression. And they were able to like pull hair samples out of it and test them against like elk and bear and things like that, because that's what a lot of people think that would have made it, is that like elk wallowing. But some of the hair samples don't match anything, and so kind of interesting. And so that's what that one is. It's just kind of like a little drawing showing what happened.
They assume is what happened.
Yeah. And then below that is there are like petroglyphs, cave paintings, things like that from Native Americans that show what they believe are Sasquatch.
Okay. Dang.
So, one very famous reported encounter happened in 1924, and it was the Ape Canyon incident. And so kind of a synopsis of what happened, which, again, this all comes from stuff that I've read, and like source material and everything is all going to be shown. But so the Ape Canyon incident, what happened was there were these two miners who were out in a cabin clear back in the middle of the woods on a mountain, and they were by a river, and they saw what they thought was a Sasquatch like peeking out from behind a tree looking at them from across the way. And it kept on like looking at them, and so the one guy pulled up his gun and he shot it 3 times, and it ended up like running away. Well, they went back to their cabin, and that night they started getting attacked, and there were like multiple things outside that they could hear like beating on the cabin. At one point they said that one of them was able to kind of like get through the wall and was like reaching through the wall trying to grab one of them. They could hear one on the roof like stomping, and like rocks were being like thrown at the cabin. And so they were pretty much under attack by a group, supposedly, which probably most likely because they had just shot that other one.
It's showing they're defending their own. Like, it's almost an affront to the land that they live on, you know? Like, attacking them on the land they call their home.
Yeah.
It would make sense that they would have such an aggressive rebuke to that.
Yeah. And so that happened like throughout the night, and then the next morning they just packed up everything and were like taking off. And there was another one, and they claimed that they shot, and as they shot it, it fell into like the ravine that was next to it, and so they think that they killed that one. Well, people thought that they were crazy. People believed them, like all sorts of
different responses.
You know, as there always is. Well, a guy named Mark Marcel pretty recently started looking into it, and he worked as a surveyor. That's what it was. He worked as a surveyor, and so he was pretty good at like seeing how to like survey the land and like use like all of that kind of stuff. And so he started like looking into this incident and wanted to find the cabin, or where the cabin would have been, to see if there was more credibility that could be lent to this story that happened. And so he started like looking into it and looking into like historical reports and things like that, and he ended up, after a bunch of time studying and researching, he ended up finding the foundation of a cabin in the same area where these guys supposedly had their Ape Canyon encounter. And then the descendants of these guys, Mark Marcel had like talked to them, and they ended up finding the opening to the mine
that they were using.
That was in that area as well.
Right, because the family that was there originally who got attacked were living there purely because they were going and like panning for gold and mining.
Yeah,
for
so
gold,
like
right?
it was like a cabin that they were going up to for whenever they were mining, so that they had a place to stay, and then they would like mine and then they'd leave.
Okay.
And so it was just like a cabin that was there purely for them to have a place to stay while they were mining.
Gotcha.
And so it's not like there were like families and stuff were living there.
Yeah.
It was
just
these guys who were mining, going up and using it, and then leaving again.
Gotcha.
But kind of insane. And so like he found the foundation. These guys' descendants found the mine shaft. And so it kind of lent a lot of like credibility because like, okay, so there really was a cabin there. There really was a mine that they were going to, and there really is like a deep ravine right there. And where that's located, it's like crazy hard and dangerous to get to. And so it's pretty crazy. Like it's very interesting.
I was gonna say this is one of the few ones I actually know something about, because I have heard that story from. We went to a thing.
Yeah, where Mark Marcel was actually there and talked about it.
He recounted this story and his exploits during like what he did during the research. They said they were going to try to find the pond or whatever it was, like the little river nearby where they were shooting at the one. He said he wanted to try to find that place to see if he could find where the shots were actually taken at them, to see if he could hopefully metal detect bullet casings or bullets even, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Like, it's so stinking cool.
Man.
But yeah. So then here are a bunch of my sources. And then if we jump to the next slide.
Even more
sources. More sources. So, do you have any questions or anything?
I feel like I tried to get everything out as it arose in my head. It's better that way, because if I don't say it soon enough, I'll forget by the time we
That's
get there.
fair.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've only personally heard of like the Yeti and Bigfoot. Mostly, like, you know, hear about Yowie maybe once or twice, but it's very interesting hearing about different locations, different, like, because like I said way earlier, they sometimes lump them all in as the same thing. Like, oh, the Yeti's just Bigfoot, but it's like there are genuine size difference in the accounts taken from people in the different parts of the world. Like, they're not always the same size, the same color. It's always different. Some of them are aggressive. And like with the Yeti, maybe they're aggressive because of where they live. But was it the Ibu Gogo that was on the island?
Yeah.
Those ones were aggressive too, but I couldn't really tell you why. I imagine they had plenty of food on an island, just maybe territorial.
Yeah.
But it's really cool learning about all of them, because I knew nothing at the beginning of this, so I learned a lot.
Well, and it's kind of crazy because like there were two that I cut out because I couldn't find like a ton of information on them. And so like I cut out the orangutan, which is also from Indonesia, like the orang pendek.
Mm-hmm.
But the orangutan is like reported to be like up to 10 feet tall, 10
Holy
to 12
crap.
feet tall. And so
That's crazy.
I cut that one out just because I didn't have a whole bunch of information and I wasn't like crazy familiar with them. And then another one that I cut out they're called like brown jacks or the Junjidi, and they're also in Australia like the Yowie, but they're a lot smaller and they're also crazy aggressive. And all of the stories that I've heard listening to like podcasts or that I've like read about, all of them they're pretty aggressive little guys too. And so like it really is insane how many different kinds they are. And like even looking at the footprints, like just the difference in how their feet are set up, it's they're clearly all different things from one another. Like they aren't all just the same species
it's not the same
spread
exact
everywhere.
thing, just in a bunch of different locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I hope this was informative to whoever's listening.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for listening. Do you have any closing remarks, Haley?
Nope. Hopefully it was informative, or at the very least, hopefully it was entertaining. So, thank you guys, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.